that huge like fortress that like boxed in the kitchen,
Uh-huh.
and it was like all open there, just like a half wall to lean on. Like it was up close and personal with customers back then. Like I have some pictures of like from that like little crow's nest above the dining room, like just downward pictures of like how many people were in there at one time. And you know, you count it out, and it was like inside that super tiny dining room that like comfortably sat 18, there'd be like 100 people, 110 people all at the same time pushing in, like when it was cold, trying to get breakfast sandwiches. Like you'd have like your breakfast slam, and then you'd have like your, you know, midday slam, and it was, you know, 600 covers in a course of a day. And it was like 3 of us. It was like at a time period, it was like me and Justin and Galen, and we would be slamming out those services like in the mop closet and back, just like taking rips like during service. Like, and that mop closet was like 5 feet away from like the area where like people were getting rang up for sandwiches. But I mean, everybody was young, and we were just like having a good time. We weren't doing anything malicious. I mean, not during our shifts.
No, and I'm sure there's stories like that in every kitchen. That's hilarious that you reminisce of like, God damn it, I remember these restaurants, and I just kept sitting here thinking about that Cuban sandwich and the fact that you rip bastards are back there hanging it. But at the same time, you know, that there's nothing wrong with that. And as a functioning stoner myself, I don't have any problem with a stoner. In fact, I like to believe that those that are getting a little bit ripped are probably taking a little bit more care and appreciating the art of making a sandwich. Somebody like, well, let's make a fucking dank sandwich, because that's what I like to think. And I like food, and I mean, y'all obviously like it enough to the point where you're fucking making it every day.
Yeah, I mean,
I can applaud that. I'm not doing. No, I don't think anyone's going to throw shade.
I mean, I don't feel bad about it one damn bit. Like, it's just like, it's just fun thinking like, oh, like, we were doing something that was very important, but it felt like so free at that point, where it was just kind of like we were running these services where it's like looking back at those numbers that we were putting up, it was fucking insane. And like you were just like managing, because we were coming in the morning and like putting on Dio like before we opened up, and then like Justin like playing Grateful Dead like half the day, and then us like walking back there and like putting on like stoner metal. And yeah, it was just like always something popping with that crew. It was like honestly like amazing times. And I did that for 4 years with Justin, and like everybody that came out of like that little group right there, it's like one girl that was like working behind the counter, she's like doing big things down in Taos now. And like Justin, obviously, like all of his success with like River Bear, like they're killing it. Like their charcuterie is amazing, their whole deli style program is awesome. I use a bunch of their product here. And then like Galen, like where in the world is Galen Kinnemer? Like somebody answer me that. Like, is he cooking in Italy right now? Is he doing something with the homies at Noma? Like that kid was several years younger than me or Justin. He, like from the get-go, we were like, Galen's going to be a better cook than we are ever going to be in like the next year, and he's just going to keep getting better after that. That like mountain kid from La Vida that just had like an endless level of talent to like roll on, just like grew up in food. Like, cool, go out there and break its neck, and like let's get eaten. Like that was as soon as he could walk, and it was, learned a lot from him, and I love that dude to death. Like, I don't know if you're working at like Rockarola like in New York or actually cooking somewhere, but I love that kid and attribute like a huge amount of like what I know and who I know in Colorado because of him. Like, he's always been an inspiration to me.
Man, that is awesome. We should have to do a track him down. We'll have to get Dog on the case.
Yeah, like if we got a little bounty hunter on it, like let's see what kind of numbers we need to run.
All right, so yeah, fast forward a couple of years.
Jump forward.
When did you open Goed Zuur?
2017 is when it opened. 2014 is when me and John Feynman conceptualized it. We were getting all fucking litty in his garage in Lafayette at the time, and he had like just come back from Belgium, and he's just like, Anthony, I like brought some beers back. And I'm like, sweet, like I like sour beers, but I hadn't had anything like this, not like that next level. And
so y'all were kind of forward thinking in the thought of bringing it to Denver as well, because while we are kind of I guess a pioneer in the creative and craft beer scenes, sours in 2014 weren't necessarily like the popping bug, were they? Or were y'all one of the people like when everybody else was drinking sours and y'all just happened to have this connect to like fire?
We so John owns Backcountry Pizza and Tap House in Boulder, Backcountry Pizza in Netherlands, and big part of like the Melvin Brewing team also. And I mean, like we ran at Backcountry an event that we had called Sour Sunday, and it would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people would show up for that. Yeah, that cheese is dope, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to dive into the menu next, but I want to keep hearing about Sour Sundays.
So we just do our biggest numbers that we do ever on Sour Sunday, and we would just be rolling like 60 sours at once on draft. And John, just being who he is and like the bars that he's had, like he just had amazing buying power. And I mean, he's been a dude in the scene, like kind of like getting mentored by Chris Black in a big way. And I mean, Falling Rock, rest in peace, like Chris Black and all the like his two brothers. Like I love you guys. But yeah, I mean, it was like they were a huge inspiration to us, and I knew them through Justin also. So it was like a big circle with like the beer thing, and it all just kind of like made sense. Like, yo, we got to pop into the Denver scene with Zuur, and yeah, it was that tasting in his garage, just like getting barbecued and like drinking like super dope lambic. He's like, here's this bottle of Cantillon. And it's when I had my first bottle of Vigneron, and then I had a Dre Fontaine and like Golden Blend for the first time that night. They were amazing. And
I think most people that listen to this podcast are going to be like, what the fuck are those things? And I will be the first to ask that. What the fuck are those things? Are you just talking about specific wines and beers and things of that nature?
We're talking about lambic right now.
Wait, what's lambic?
Lambic is like champagne. So only champagne comes from the Champagne region. Only lambic comes from Pajottenland in Belgium. There's a specific process in America. So it is the lambic making process, but it's one of those things where it's regionalized, and they want to hold on to that. So when we're making
that one really didn't catch on nearly as well as the champagne vibe. But they really got kind of second fiddle on that one.
Well, not as.
I mean, it could still be dank. I'm just saying, yeah, they're definitely not, because I didn't know that.
But they gave the
pretentiousness
the option
there as well.
They also gave the option where it was just like, hey, you can either like try to play by our rules, or like cross us, and then you don't get access to this anymore. And so here at Zuur, like over in that corner, like right there at the end of that bench, there was a meeting between like Jeffrey Stuffings from Jester King and like a bunch of other like big name sour makers in the U.S. that basically came up with like the rule set and like of what is method traditional. Like, what is the American way of making lambic, spontaneous fermentation, cool shipping, using all the traditional, like, lambic making processes. And, that's what we try to showcase. We think of that as being the highest tier of sour beer making that you can really be doing, and at the lowest level you have kettle souring, and then you have mixed fermentation stuff and different, like all sorts of different inoculations and blends that can happen, everything in between. But that method traditional style, like the last beer that we just did a collaboration with Crooked Stave, it's our first beer called Goed Zuur. It's method traditional in the style of Goose. Goose is a blend of 3-year, 2-year, 1-year aged spontaneous beers, and that is like what a Goose blend is. And like personally, I think that is the best beer in the world as far as like serving with food. Like I love drinking it by itself, but it's like I can like drink champagne, but like champagne and oysters like light me on fire. Like that is my shit. Like from there on, it's just kind of like we had this idea where it was kind of we wanted to make, at this point we were thinking bar. Like we no longer have a sour beer bar. Like we have a sour beer restaurant, And like we think of this as kind of being like a place where
it has definitely got a restaurant to the bar vibe.
Like,
because I had originally just done happy hour here, thinking it was more of a Google says bar kind of vibe.
Well, restaurants
but you have
are doing
a fucking menu.
Like bars are doing 18% of their sales in food if they're lucky. Like restaurants, they're not doing 51. Or like restaurants are doing more like 51 to 54% like we're doing food-wise. And some not even that much. Like our food is what, like we always thought it was going to be the beer that brought people in. It was just like this unique tap list, a curation of like beers.
I get what
John.
you're saying. More people are coming for the food than they are for the sour beer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily not in lieu of, but just because the food is that good.
Food's fire, man.
Dude, the
and
food
like,
is fire, and that's why I have you on today.
And
It wowed me. I had to learn more about it. Y'all have seasonal menus going. We're doing Dutch ovens,
yeah,
Dutch
for all 3 seasons in Colorado. Like we do a 3-season menu because that's what Colorado has. It has an early or a spring and early summer, and then like a late summer and fall, and then winter, and then.
So what is our? I mean, obviously some folks saw we had the duck confit bread pudding, which was fucking divine.
Fire.
But what does I guess a winter seasonal? What does your winter seasonal Belgian dinner menu look like?
I mean, that's the thing. We're not making traditional Belgian food by any sense. Like, there's been dishes here and there like that, but it's like right now, it's just like we write collectively as a kitchen. I used to do
awesome.
I used to do all the menus by myself, and I was like very possessive of them. And it's like, oh, this is how I show myself. And it's like, no. What really like got me was like, the team that we build in this kitchen is like how I represent myself, and it's like our whole staff is dope, and it's like everybody works together like really, really well, and it's just I've been in so many kitchens where like the egos are so intense, and like restaurants where it's like I'm warlording over everything. It's like no, it's like we're all like at about the same level.
If
really.
everybody rose together, you get places quicker too. So I mean, I applaud that mentality too, because obviously when you have your baby, you have your sour beer bar that has the funky worded and everything. Like everything you said earlier, I couldn't understand.
We don't have the most proper service that we give customers, but we have like the most personal service.
It is.
And, like,
I was going to say it's
best.
comfortable. This is a comfortable, and it's not just winter. Y'all are comfortable when you have the patios vibing in early spring, late spring, early summer, and the late summer, early fall, whatever you call it.
Yeah, I mean,
like it's popping outside, but it's a perfect vibe in here. Cozy up, the windows, the natural light from just the snowstorm. You got a great wine list, and then you've got these hearty dishes. But you're loaded from. It starts with the butterfly. Like, where did the creativities of doing a varietal across the board go from? Is that a team attack? Like everyone picks one butter?
Everybody comes in here. It's like, oh, do you guys do beer flights? And we're like, absolutely not. We'll serve you a 5-ounce beer or a 10-ounce beer, and just kind of like a little like clap back like to all like the flight asking. It's just like, let's just focus more on doing food flights. How about that?
I mean, it's awesome. When we started the meal with the butter flights and fresh in-house bread, which you were speaking of earlier, I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be such an epic evening. Like, and it was like, you can either eat and drink heavy, or if you wanted to, you can come in here and get exactly what you're looking for in a winter dish and go lay up on the couch like a bear.
Yeah, it's a lot of the food, like a lot of that part of Goed Zuur, which was the only part when we first opened, like meat and cheese and like a couple snacks.
Yeah.
That's like all we had when we first opened, and then like that menu just like became what it is now. And but no, I mean that whole like cheese side of things, butter included, all things dairy. That was Rachel Smith, and like Rachel.
Bravo, Rachel.
Yeah, I mean she was our GM here. She's the director of our cheese program. I mean she's our accountant. Rachel is our front of the house manager.
Well.
Yeah, you met Rach. Like Rachel is like all those things, and my girlfriend, and we've been.
Hey.
I mean we live together. We like own a house together. Like we've been together since I worked at Backcountry, and like she was in Expo there. And it was like 7 years now.
Oh, nice. Okay, so y'all have been through thick and thin of restaurant
she's
scenes.
been here since day one. Like, Rachel was in the kitchen when we first started, just, like, cutting cheese and, like, doing shit with me.
Well, then okay, so here's a question for you then. I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No.
I was going to say, what is your new, because you started as a cheese and bread bar, but y'all sent, you mentioned how the restaurant's so heat. What is something that everyone's been piping on that someone that's listening to this, what is something they've got to try?
On our current